What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. This will be on Nino's Corner.tv, 107 daily, and hopefully my YouTube channel. So if you hear a beep or a blurp or a silence, just know that we're editing certain words out so that we don't get bombed. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and read My Digital Money, folks. My Digital Money. Did you know you can earn hundreds and thousands investing in crypto? And did you know you don't have to pay capital gains tax on it? Open a Roth crypto IRA with My Digital Money now to take advantage of it. You will pay based on your contribution and nothing on capital gains. If Ethereum and Chainlink doubles or Bitcoin surges to a new high, you could be doubling your investments. Our US-based phone support is always ready to answer your questions. You know what's better? That we'll give you a free $50 credit if you fund your My Digital Crypto IRA account with at least $1,000. No capital gains tax. Go to mydigitalmoney.com now, mydigitalmoney.com now, folks, and start taking advantage of it. All right, Juanito, where the hell are you?
Oh, I'm just hanging out. What's going on with you, bro?
I need to be there. I'm in the middle of a bunch of stuff right now, so you know I couldn't make it.
Oh, well, okay. You'll miss out. It'll be fun.
Did you go see the 2,000 Mules?
We didn't. There was a screw up, and apparently we didn't get to have our tickets. So I was a little bit annoyed here, bro. I was thinking about throwing a temper tantrum, but it wasn't going to fix anything. So I guess we're going to see it at the world premiere on the 7th here in Las Vegas. So actually it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, I promised my audience that this one would be a question and answer, and let's go for it. You want to go for it? You want to run this?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's kick some ass.
So what happened was I told my audience on Telegram to get their questions ready, send them to Nino's Corner 77 at Gmail, and I would ask them. I like to get my audience involved as much as possible, Juanito, because I'm doing this for them. We're all doing this for them, really. This is everyone's involved, and I know there's some things you can't say, so you can say pass or no comment or however you feel free to answer it. I know you go at your own pace, your own speed, so let me know when you want to get started.
Well, I'm ready. Fire away.
Ding, ding,
fire
ding.
It will. Fire it will.
Ding ding ding.
The range is
I got 10 here. Let's have fun with this. And I'll just read them off. Okay. So first question. You say this is an end.
Hold on a second. I have one question.
Okay.
Do I win any money on this or anything? Do I win like a sports car behind door number 3?
I don't know. Yeah, sure. I'll buy you a candy bar when I get up there with you. I'll get you a beer,
I was looking for the Rolls Royce Wraith or another Aston Martin, another old truck. I'd settle for a red wagon.
I can go to the junkyard here and get you an old truck. Actually,
you know what? Actually, I got to tell you something. I had somebody came over to deliver something the other day, and she was driving an old Buick station wagon, about a 93 or so Park Avenue station wagon. I was like, oh my gosh. I tried everything to get it off of her, and she wasn't cutting loose of it. I mean, everybody has a station wagon story. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing, but I really, I can tell you every station wagon that I've had over the years, and I just love them. And so, and you talk to people, you drive an old station wagon, everybody's got a station wagon story, if they're older than, 30 years old or something, because their families had them before the SUVs came in the world and the minivans and all that. So anyway, now I want a station wagon. Forget the Rolls. I want a station wagon.
So I mean, okay. I guess you're having some leisure time up where you're at right now, right? You finally get some time to just relax, or is it just critical?
Well, you know what's coming. I mean, you really screwed up, man. I'm telling you what, you're missing out and you know what's coming. I can't tell anybody else, but man, you really screwed up, dude. I don't know
I know, but I mean, I had a death in the family, and then I'm in the middle of the move right now, and it's stressful. The movers were late, and I'm a day behind. I'm 2 days behind now because it's just. I wish.
Let me just say one thing before you take the first question off. Today's National Day of Prayer, and a lot happening. We had a couple different people on the phone today. One that's got a very serious cancer case, and we're taking to be treated this weekend. And a beautiful gal, young daughter, and like that, and a friend of some of the work that we're doing. And so a lot of prayer, here she is, fighting to stay viable, and she's just a young gal. I think she's in her late 20s. And I got another friend that does mechanic work for me out there in South Carolina, and his wife of 30 years is in her last moments. We tried to get her out to be treated here, but she wasn't able to function well enough a few weeks ago. And so he's down to, he just sent me a note, hours type of thing, and said a prayer with him. And, we're thankful. We give thanksgiving for every moment that they were together and here, and what she'll experience, what she'll know in just a short period of time after she passes. We can't even imagine. Know all the cool places to go, and in that world, beautiful Christian gal. Gold so cheap they use it for pavement.
Yeah.
And
you want to start this off with a prayer?
Well, and I was going to say, and there's one other thing. So I have another situation that I've been assisting on that I'll actually probably do quite a bit of publication on out over time. But that person was falsely accused, that we just got a devastating report that shows how the police officers and prosecutor were fully aware that videotapes and audio tapes have been altered, and just had expert examination of it. That's going to be heard in court in just a few minutes. The judge saw it last night, prosecutor saw it last night, and the gulags of Alaska, it's just insane. And so we're going to be hearing more about that, but that's going to be in the court in just a few hours. And this is somebody who's been in prison for over a year on a totally fallacious charge. And we just, went all the way and proved that beyond any reasonable doubt. So, there's a lot in play on this National Day of Prayer. We're thinking about the country, the politics, the court with the abortion thing, and this court now coming forward and saying, look, the previous court acted unconstitutionally, inappropriately, and our world has been altered for 50 years here in America by false, improper action that was constitutionally covered and protected, and they went against it, and we're living with the consequences of it. So, some won't have to stay here. They're going to graduate. Others of us can't leave because there's so much at stake, and we have to leave our campsite better than we found it in this temporary world for the ones that are going to come after us. We got to fix this. We got to leave a better world for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, generations unnumbered. We're not going anywhere. Devil's not winning. We're thankful for the ones that have been here. I got a good word from a friend of mine who's the highest decorated Vietnam Special Forces veteran. And we had him treated similarly. He thought he had a few weeks to live. That was a couple months back, and then they just declared him cancer-free. Just shocking change. We have lots of reasons for hope and thanksgiving. And there's a lot of people want us to get all depressed. It's the end of the world. There's, the food's going to be gone. We won't be able to eat. There's no gas. The government's going to blow up. The world's going to blow up. Bullshit. There's going to be some tough stuff. But for those of us who are looking to God and acting and living by faith, we got trials ahead, but we got this. We're going to get this. We're not giving up. We have a national day of prayer for a reason, and I encourage all your folks to be in prayer. And I know this will be released a day later, sure. And those can be released a day or two later, but let's be in prayer. In heaven, there is no time.
Well, go ahead.
All right.
You can kick it off.
Father God, we thank you for every blessing, every mercy. Thank you for every listener here that's joining us today. Ask you to deal with each of them personally, according to their needs, their concerns, and that you would be a very personal father to them in their life, where they're at this second. For those that need healing, that you would bring your ministers to help them to understand how healing works and to bring healing into their lives by your own hand, by your own touch. For those that need emotional assistance, where they're stressed, they can't function, that you would bring the peace that passes all understanding into their hearts and minds. For those that have relationship issues, that you would bring reconciliation and mending and strengthening, so that we can move forward together as a team. We pray for those with financial needs, that you would provide a way, that you would make a path for them to be whole, to be able to pay their bills, to be able to function in spite of all the calamity, chaos, and trauma that are being introduced into our world, into their lives, with the intent of hurting and damaging all of us. And ask you to be with the leaders of our nation, especially those that are looking to you for guidance and strength, that you would give them clarity of mind, clarity of purpose, and direction as they seek to administer justly according to your will. And we thank you for putting us in the world, for putting us in the fight. We know that someday this war will end. We pray that you will help us to do exactly your will in this moment, and that we will be courageous according to your will, so that we can enjoy the fruits of our labors by your strength, turning this world to good and to your purposes forever. In Jesus' name, by the blood of Christ. Thank you, Father.
Amen. All right, Juanito, let's get started. Should I not be worried about the words I say? Because she'll
just fire away. I'm not even concerned. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. First question. Ding, ding, ding.
Round one.
Good. All right. So.
Okay, I got my gloves on really tight. I don't want to get loose. Okay.
All right. So you say this is an NDE, a near-death experience. How much worse is it going to get, and how do we prepare until this is finished? How far do you think this is going to go, and how much worse will this get, and how do we prepare?
We talked yesterday about it, and I think it's a fair analogy. For each person, it's a little different. You look at near-death experiences. One guy sees the future with cloud cities, and another guy goes to hell and is, seeing horrible torment, the smell, stench. Another guy, a SEAL team member and contractor, said when he found himself in this dark place, he couldn't feel the ground under him. He was just falling perpetually. So every experience is a little different with each person. It's a very personal experience. A near-death experience within the nation For those that have means, maybe it's, they lose a house, or they have a business collapse. The stock market goes wonky, interest rates go to the moon, and they can't do a deal that they've been planning or working towards for a long time. Every person's sensitive location is a bit different. So when you say what would be a near-death experience for you, a horror for you, that's pretty unique. I would say it's a very personal thing, just as we have a personal God. He may be out there running everything, and yet he's, for all his vastness, he's as close as a thought away. So this near-death experience moment that we're having collectively is going to be individually unique, but there's a lot of it that is common for us as a nation. The question on the food supply, what's going to happen on the food supply in America as we have this attack on the infrastructure for the food. This is no accident. This is a plan.
Yeah, there's food processing plants and distribution centers going up in flames.
Yeah, it's a plan as much as the. Come on, man.
All right,
you're in a war.
Okay, blurt that word out.
Well, that's right. Blurt that word out. But this is somebody's scheme, master scheme. And part of the thing that happens over time for us is it's becoming clearer. The fog is kind of lifting. For all that they're trying to make it harder to see, we're getting closer to the targets. I had a situation on the boat actually 3 times last summer, or 2 summers ago. I haven't been back for quite a while. And all 3 times out of the fog, when do they want to take nuclear subs to sea? Sometimes when they want to leave, they want to leave when there's fog, so you can't see them clearly. So they're on the surface. They pick the foggy day. So out of the fog 3 times, I'm right on top of the nuclear sub being escorted out to sea. And all 3 of them were leaving too. It wasn't coming back. And I mean, it's 1 second they're not there, the next second they are. And I have radar up, and I see the stuff there. We're kind of watching, waiting, going through some of the shipping lanes. So we have to be careful. But bam, there it is, right there. And then they got the escort boats making a big stink like he did something wrong. And but as you get closer to the target, it gets easier to see. When they were 3-4 miles out in the fog, you couldn't see them. And that's the situation for us as a country. And then it's like I was saying, if you've ever been, a lot of people don't live where tornadoes happen, so they don't know this. So but the people that do live in Tornado Alley and similar, you can tell, you can look up in the sky and you'll say, that looks like it's ready for a tornado. And people that live in tornado country, they tell you, don't screw around. You see the clouds looking right, and you start to see a funnel forming. You don't screw around. You get in the shelter, because it can happen lightning fast. And I remember I had one of my motorhomes as towing.
Because they just drop out of the sky, right? They just go whoosh. Oh, they drop it and they're on their way. They go fast.
They go so fast, and they can twist. It's an electrical storm as much as anything, because it's going to ground, hitting the earth. And so I had one of my motorhomes and was towing one of my rigs going somewhere years ago, probably 30 years ago. And it was nighttime, and I just knew something wasn't quite right. And I slowed down, kind of looked around. I was going, I was out in Oklahoma. I was going, man, this just doesn't feel right. And I stopped, pulled over, got out of the rig, took a look, and I was trying to figure out what it was.
You could feel the electricity in the air or something.
Oh yeah, you could tell.
You could feel them. I've been around a tornado. You feel them forming. You can feel them in your skin, everywhere in your body. It's crazy.
Well, and I mean, this was out. I'm out in Timbuktu. I don't see a car anywhere. And all of a sudden, I could feel you're just going to go. You could feel the hair on my arm starting to, perk up. And I'm looking around, and off in the distance, I could just see from there was a farm areas out there, and I could just see between me and it got real dusty, cloudy. All of a sudden, I realized, oh shit, it's a freaking tornado.
Jeez.
And I get back in the rig and I rocket, 95 miles an hour up the road, and I'm watching it right out the side of the coach, literally probably a quarter mile away, staying with me for probably 10 miles.
Oh man, where did it go?
Well, that one I was headed north, and it traveled with me, and it was pretty
just
intense.
two. I mean, those things.
Well, it was out in a very rural area, very rural, and people were inside their home sleeping. Probably had no idea. Didn't hear like people have storm warning systems on their radios that they're tuned to in a lot of that part of the world to give them advance warning, so they know, yeah, something's coming. You look on the weather channel, it's like, yeah, this is, could be stuff anywhere in here. So my point with all of that is, in multiple areas, you'll watch, and sometimes you'll have multiple tornadoes come down at exactly the same time, and just bang, 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 bang. In the scripture, in Job's life, when Satan attacked him, because remember, the devil went to God, has to present himself periodically, and God says to the devil, have you considered my servant Job? And he says, oh yeah, Job. The only reason he's nice to you, God, is because you bless him with everything. If you removed all the blessings, he'd curse you. And so God says, well, all right, I think that's not true, but go ahead and see. And so he gives the devil license to remove things from Job's life and see if he curses God. And so what happens is that the devil gets everything set up, and then a messenger comes to tell him that all of his cattle have been stolen, and a messenger comes to tell him that his grain's been destroyed, that all these different things. And the scripture that applies is, while the first messenger was still speaking, the next messenger arrived. So, the questions about medical stuff, as each one keeps hitting us, another one keeps showing up. These are tornadoes hitting the ground simultaneously all around us. We're far from done. The economic stuff, military, and other parts of the world.
Well, that goes to the next question then, because these two kind of feed together. You want me to read you the second question? Say it's exactly what you're saying. Do we need to go into a recession, depression before the military intervenes?
Well,
and will the takedowns be public?
Yeah, there's no secret rapture here. As I've said numerous times, to get to correct what's going on in America and in the world, there's very little that's going to be done behind the scenes. There is some, but that wouldn't cure things. At a certain level, let me back up and say.
So you're saying Real Raw News is full of shit?
Well, it says right on the side.
I know.
That it's for entertainment purposes.
I don't understand why people believe this.
Mm-hmm. But let me just say this, okay? I'm not defending that. Let me just say it this way, though. The attack on America was literally done primarily by spy rings, by intel operatives on numerous levels, including private operations. So the obvious one is the dossier. That was done. The person who coordinated, came up with the secret master plan, the chess master, like in a James Bond movie, is Stephen Halper, former American, worked in the Reagan White House. Then he became the money guy in Iran-Contra, unindicted co-conspirator. When that was going on, he goes over to Cambridge and becomes an instructor. And then he gets with his buddies and friends, he gets these contracts for Department of Defense to do all this work looking at Department of Defense stuff. That's all bullshit. It's a way of funneling money to him because it's a 3-letter agency thing. And he's coordinating his actions with MI6 and with other intelligence agencies around the world that are doing the 13 primary families and then their secret handshake clubs. They use the intelligence agencies like their own security force, their own private security. So you can move up through the ranks to a certain point. You go, well, why'd that guy get promoted? Because he's in the right bloodline. Why'd that guy get promoted? Because he's doing the secret handshake with these guys just right. And you can't get above a certain point unless you're part of that little club. And the rest of the people at lower levels, they're all just functionaries doing the bidding of. Unless you kiss the ring, you're not moving up through the ranks. And so what happened to America is that multiple of these groups were literally involved in a spy versus spy type of an operation to infiltrate various aspects of the American system so they could control it. We had the guy that came out, testified before both the Senate and the House Judiciary Oversight Committees about the fact that he worked over the Justice Department and that contractors were present. And by the way, this person was vetted by both the House and the Senate as being who he said he was, doing what he said he did for work. And he did an interview on July 10th, 2018, talking about Rich murder, and said that he heard other contractors that do the same kind of work as he does, laughing, controlling what's going on within our American judiciary. And then this particular person said he was helping enforce and part of the group that controls honeypots, blackmail, bribes, and murder, inside the court system in America to control it. So you have that in other agencies also. Now, that certainly hasn't been challenged in a court with cross-examination. That's his assertion, but he did testify to both the Senate and the House oversight committees, and did come on and do a public interview. Even if you go, think about this, Nino, I think it's really, people have to slow down and think about the way I'm saying this. It's an example that you see over and over and over, but I do this because it's the information's fairly well developed and it's pretty obvious. Zuckerberg did not invent Facebook. Facebook, which became worth hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, was developed, intricately designed, tested, worked through on government computers with government funding over at DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Program, or projects. And so DARPA invents it, develops it, stole it from somebody else, by the way, that actually brought the idea and put together all the source codes, lives in Florida. They do this whole thing, then they stop the LifeLog project at noon and start Facebook and hand this to Zuckerberg, this invented person. Now think about that. Who has the power in the American system to give something worth hundreds of billions of dollars to one person? And then they did split off. They said the Winklevoss twins actually had a hand in it. Well, what the deal is, the numbers became so great, they needed to pull some winnings off the table. It's like getting dealt face cards in 21 or blackjack. And so they needed to move some money other places to do other projects. So they had this court thing. Why was Zuckerberg just totally disconnected, didn't care about it? Because he knew the court thing was all a sham. It was an excuse to take some money and give it to these guys to do other projects. It was just a legal sham to move hundreds of millions of dollars around for other stuff, or, whatever, to give some other people some money. And they went off and did the Bitcoin investments like that. So
Bitcoin's going to fall. You think that's going to fail ultimately?
Well, hold on. I want to finish this thought, because I want to finish this for a second. We can talk about that in a second. The point is, I use that as an example. You have numerous other projects that look like private parties are doing or inventing things, but behind the scenes, in the three-letter agency world, in the spy world, they're manipulating to create a winner, to create a leader, to move a technology into the public, but they control the strings and the people behind the scenes. So, for example, I use Soros. Soros. Everywhere you look, it's all Soros is this evil guy and he does that evil thing. He's just a figurehead, just like Zuckerberg. He's the public face of a much deeper, much more deadly project, much more sinister project. Soros got his wealth, magnified his wealth by betting against the British pound and then other currencies around the world. That was an intelligence operation to take money that they didn't have to get from Parliament or from any other body or win in the normal, natural way, where they had inside knowledge of what they were going to do to move values. And then they come in and clip this money off the investors, put it in this one person's hands, and then he's supposedly administering it the way that they want it all the way around the world. So let's step back and look at what happened with Zuckerberg. What was his influence on this last election? What are we talking about with 2,000 mules? Who paid to have all those drop boxes in place? And then who was paying behind the scenes? Where did that money come from to pay the people behind the scenes to that affect? And that was just one of numerous ways to get dominance over America through who gets into power in the electoral process. So, and of course, I'm being a little bit guarded in my words, because otherwise what? We would not be able to have an honest conversation. All of those servers at the various social media sites, what you're going to find out is that government entities have been doing giving services at extremely cheap prices, giving special deals to secret handshake club members because they're helping for a continuity in government situation in case the world starts to end. So they get a fat deal, they get a government check behind the scenes. You come in with a regular business to compete with them and try to do it straight. Your costs are 5-10 times greater. You don't get the tax breaks they do. You don't get the loans that they do that they never have to pay back. And so what happens is that it's an unfair playing field, and then certain designated winners get all this control over whether you get to have a conversation or not, how your gets applied or counted or doesn't, or others come in and dilute it, whether or not your business gets chosen for some kind of assistance or contractor, or something else happens that puts you out of business, or you don't get the loan, other guys get the government assistance or the grant or something like that. So it's not an even playing field. And most of that is being orchestrated behind the scenes by three-letter agency people. You think it's normal business. It's not. And all around the world, we're having a spy versus spy thing. The magnitude of this fight is hard to imagine. So then you come forward, and a lot of people, why don't we just do this? Why doesn't Trump just do that? Why doesn't somebody else do this other thing? Because you're not seeing the rest of the fight. You know, when we're out on the boat, you see the surface of the water out there and little waves here and there, and maybe see a big wave, another boat goes by, see a porpoise once in a while, or a dolphin, whale. Here a while back, but I shut it off because they came right up to us. We couldn't go anywhere. We weren't trying to encroach. We're just coasting. You get, a couple hundred tons. It doesn't stop instantly.
I got to get to these questions, Juanito.
All right. Well,
there's a lot of them.
So there's under the water, under the surface of the water, there's so much more life that you can't see. That's the difference between the visible world that you're seeing in the media, the conversations we can have, and what's really going on just beneath the surface. And you only once in a while get a glance at some of the creatures clearing the surface. What's going on right beneath the ship of state of America? All that sea life, all that oddity, the deeper you go around the world, the more bizarre it gets. And we are sitting right on top of it. And there's sea monsters down there. Some of them got loose from the swamp. It's very scary. So, all right.
Do you think
I don't know if I answered your question.
Are we going to hit a recession or a depression, Juanito?
Well, we're
obviously going to hit a recession. We're on our way, but do you think it's going to be bad as like the depression of the early 30s? I mean, is it going to be something that people are not going to be able to survive? I mean, is it going to be that bad? That's their question.
Well, depends on how you're denominating your wealth. More millionaires were created in the aftermath of the 29 crash.
What about people
than ever in history?
Check? That's my audience.
Say it one more time, Nino.
What about my audience is mainly people that are living from check to check, paycheck to paycheck.
Okay.
So they're concerned, I mean, is gas going to be $10 a gallon? Is it going to get to that point before there's any turnaround?
Well, one thing I will say is this. It's going to affect everybody. There'll be some people that'll still do better than others, but the rich guy, he's fine. He's not worried at all. Don't kid yourself. A lot of them are sweating bullets to outer space because they have, every time they do something business-wise, if their money's not all invested, they probably didn't get rich in the first place. They have to have it working all the time. They have to have it in various places working all the time. And you can make a wrong bet with all the best counselors in the world. I know somebody that was extremely wealthy, young in his life, and he didn't make a bad trade, but things went awry on multiple fronts simultaneously. And crap, he was, literally having to work at as a greeter at Walmart type of a job. And this, he had private jets, the whole schmear. It can turn in a dime for anybody. So you have to be careful not to think that it's only the poor people that are getting hurt. The government's coming for everybody. The federal system, the monster is coming for everybody. It wants to take it away from everybody. So don't think that, just because you're living check to check, you might actually be better off in some ways because you might have more infrastructure. A guy that's never grown a garden, if it actually got desperate enough, might be in worse shape than the guy
that he can see it getting that bad before this gets turned around.
Well, George Washington said that the last great conflict that he saw when he had his dream at Valley Forge was like the second, where it was a civil war, and every man against man, brother against brother, and that all the great cities were in flames. No one left save the countryside dwellers. Is that coming at some point? I actually think that in their plan, that's absolutely correct, that that's what they want, and that's out there somewhere. But that isn't the death of the nation.
Yeah, but so people do need to prepare. They need to stock food. They need to, that's just a reality. That's just where it's going.
Yeah, you could have
prepare accordingly.
You could have a sunspot and lose a lot of your electric grid, an EMP from the sun that has nothing to do with armies against armies, we could have a desperate situation. So you better have some stuff stored up. And it doesn't mean you have to have gazillions. Look, we have food stores that the government set aside for everybody for a long time.
Yeah, but will they be used? It seems to me like they control everything. I mean, to me, it seems that they won't let us use it.
Okay, let me just, everybody go slow for a second. As I've said before, the safety net in this continuity and government moment that we're in, you have different areas of government trying to fight for who's going to control what's about to happen and going to happen in the future. Senior Executive Service and the 54 Code people that are looking at the protections put in place militarily for a post WMD, which at that time was, primarily considered nuclear, but other things were considered, whether it's alien invasion or,
without saying it, the digital Pearl Harbor, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. And so who's actually got this? The Cheney crowd over at SES put together under Carter, by the Bush people, or the ones that precede that, going back to the 54 Code, which was MacArthur and Eisenhower and similar. There's been a fight going on for a long time, and it's coming to a head. So the question is, at the citizen level, who's going to win this? Who's got the bigger gun? One's policing action internally, and one's the upper tier of the military. It's not everything, it's the final safety. How big's the fight going to be? It's going to go all the way to the final safety.
Okay, so next question.
It's going to be brutal.
That goes to my next question, number 3. Is that letter in the alphabet operation a real operation? Is the military really in charge? Without saying the letter.
Well, a faction is in charge. You have to differentiate that which exists for a post WMD environment, which we were attacked on multiple levels, and then you lose certain assets, potentially access to them or control of them because of invasion, destruction, etc. So it's a chess game. In chess, the game matures, but you actually have fewer and fewer and fewer potential moves and fewer pieces on the boards if it's chess at multiple levels. We're in a very complex chess at multiple levels game that's being gamed out. And I'm sorry, people don't want to hear it. They don't want to understand it. Understandings of what moves are possible is augmented, not decided, but augmented by artificial intelligence. You can't possibly game everything out without assistance by the computers. And then what's in there information-wise, what's been played out before over and over and over, helps to get a more and more accurate picture of the consequences of action. Wisdom is the ability to foresee the future consequences of present action. If you have an AI that's assisting you, it helps you to see potentially how different moves open up options or close off options. And all sides in this game are continuously gaming out the various options. This is so much more complex than most people understand. And then you have people whining and fussing. For example, I had some folks yesterday. It's been going on for quite a while, but it just drives me nuts. Trump's betrayed us. I've betrayed everybody. We're just playing people along so that they can be wiped out by the cabals. We're in on it. And Trump's in on it. And he's going to get his piece and everybody else is going to be toast. And he's a traitor. And everybody that's just telling people to hang tight, they're all traitors. We should be getting our guns out and getting in our foxholes and taking over our neighborhoods and blocking off the corners of the streets, and not even let the military in, because the military succumbed and agreed to thing happened to them. Okay. So at the end of the day, I'm like, I said a bad word. Okay. It's so frustrating. The game is so much bigger, and they're just want, you just got to tell us what we're supposed to do and include us in the conversation. It's like, I have a friend that was on the Mustang assembly line when they were, that was in management over at Ford, as they were working through the creation of the Mustang, 25 years ago. And that guy, the complexity of the decisions, they'd have 3 meetings a day looking at various things, just how the rubber met the roof line, for how quiet it was in the car, and air movement, tiny little changes, adding a screw here or there to get rid of a body squeak. The complexity and the conversation. Is it really necessary? How much does it raise costs? Is it going to cause a service issue down the road? It's amazing how much goes into just manufacturing a simple car and a platform that you sort of already understand, assembly lines, supply stuff, everything else. It just goes on and on. So when people think that we're just supposed to include them and tell them every last little detail, you haven't got the beginnings of most of the complexity of the conversations that have to happen. So people have to be able to have certain floor things. The Constitution has to be followed. That's how the Supreme Court got off track. They didn't follow it. They started legislating law from the bench to get certain social, they were listening to the social stuff because media had a loud drumbeat at that time. In this moment, there's a lot of people that think, they should be doing this and we should be doing that and something else should be happening, just like trying to force Trump Act on December 18th, all of those close advisors. But had he done that, all of the work that was done behind the scenes showed that by that summer, we would have been in a full-blown, guns blazing civil war that would have mimicked in its own way, not exactly.
So that was war gamed out.
The Russian Revolution.
That part was war gamed out. Was it AI that war gamed that out?
Both. It's augmented,
right,
assisted by AI. And of course, everybody knows that's in the computer world, garbage in, garbage out. You put in all sorts of parameters and options and things like that. If you don't get it right, you get a garbage answer.
We are in the best scenario right now. As bad as
this is, as bad as it is, you're in a fight, war by another means, to save the republic.
I got to tell you, Biden and all these people, Pelosi, all of them look very confident, very arrogant. They're enjoying their time. I see Obama smiling. I see Biden smiling. I see Pelosi smiling. It's like, man, that feels like a shot in the gut,
Okay. Excuse me, just almost spilled my coffee. At Babylon, they were having a big party because they'd had such a successful, round of whatever with all the outer provinces and, everything else. Then while they're having this party and they were bringing in stuff from the conquered lands, including the golden stuff from the temple of, God that had been conquered in Israel, and they're having a big laugh, at their orgy party, whatever. And the hand of God shows up out of nowhere and writes on the wall like we write on butter, and somebody says, well, it was just plaster. Oh, okay. So the hand of God just wrote on plaster. You got a hand that can write on anything like that, just appear out of a cloud. Okay, whatever. Plaster, rock, whatever. And says, this day your kingdom is required of you. You've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. That moment is coming for all those cocky people. That's part of the thing. Pride goeth before the fall. At this moment, even within our ranks, we're seeing things being toppled. The tide is coming in. Again, when you're standing on the seashore and the wave, comes up to your waist and then starts to go back out, that sand can come out from underneath your feet. It's just amazing how it erodes. That's how they feel right now. They feel the sand
coming out from
underneath their feet and their stability going. They built their house out of sand. They built their house on sand. They're standing on sand and it's eroding right out from underneath them. This Supreme Court decision that's pending is crucial because, again, the blood sacrifice of the innocents gives the devil a title deed, contractual power over America.
It's almost proper that as we're losing our food sources, that is a main food source for them. And it's happening simultaneously,
That is an amazing observation. I had not vocalized or thought of it that way, but that's absolutely, God himself gave you that.
Okay, I have another question. I have a lot of them wanting to know. All right, so
no, seriously, that's an amazing answer.
I think I read that.
I got to think about that. Yeah,
I didn't really come up with it. All right, so you talk about safeties in place. Trump being commander-in-chief in one of them. What other safeties are in place? Like you can talk about, I guess.
Well, one of the things that people have to think about, what's going to happen to the dollar? What's going to happen to the dollar? I've mentioned this several times. Dollar's going to do fine. Well, they've just raised interest rates and stuff, and we've got Bitcoin and all this other stuff. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What is a dollar? Constitution says that the Congress has the legal right, authority to mint gold and silver. Have you seen what the price of the gold and silver have been doing?
Yes, skyrocketing.
Well, hold on a second. The paper price, the traded price of paper derivatives, receipts for gold and silver, have stayed relatively stable, modest. They're higher than they were, 10 years ago or something, but they're still modest. The reality is that they print more paper promises. Physical minted gold and silver, U.S. coinage, Canadian maple leafs, and other real gold currencies are doing just fine, and they trade at a premium. Well, I got to pay an extra $10 for a silver coin that's minted by the U.S. Treasury. Yeah, it has value. It's more because it's worth more. Why? Because it's a known purity, and then it's a known quantity. It's minted to have a certain face value and weight, and so that has some kind of value. When it comes time to trade it, you get like gold bars or silver bars, and people have to wonder, well, is it tungsten underneath? If you scratch the top, is it just tungsten because it has the same weight as gold? Is it counterfeit somehow, not real? So then they want to, is the purity not what that company says it was? So then they want to melt it back down, recertify its purity, take a bunch off the top, and then give you more certificates of authenticity. Real American gold and silver coinage is relatively very stable, and you don't think of the dollar going up or down in value except against a store of value like gold or silver. So the real American dollar, silver coin, is actually very stable and going up in value, even if the paper currency that the Federal Reserve has is not stable and is not going up in value, is actually going down in value because they're printing more and more of it, and it's a scam. So that's if you put your faith in paper currency and then digital currency that's attached to it, dots and tittles on a computer screen, then you're probably building your house on sand, and it's about to get eroded and washed away, and has been from the creation of that monetary mechanism, has been continuously eroded, and it's an insider scam to steal the wealth of the people and the nation, and seize everything they have. It's an act of war, really.
All right, next question. Was Trump asked to run, and how long did he know that he was going to run for president before he did?
Well, he was groomed, I think, all of his life, if you get right down to it. The anticipation that, he would be in a position to do something later in life was a big deal. But specifically, I think it went to a different level when Nixon and he became friends after Nixon left office. Nixon knew very well. You have to remember, when Nixon ran against Kennedy and lost, he didn't actually lose. There was fraud in Chicago, literally in one small, tiny area. And as a result of that fraud in Chicago, in the way the vote was conducted, and Joe Kennedy orchestrated that with mobsters. This is very, very well documented. Then Kennedy was placed in the presidency. The reality is, Nixon was asked to fight, to challenge it. Goldwater himself pressed very hard for Nixon to challenge it. For the younger people here, very powerful senator from Arizona, and super conservative. Nixon said, no, I'm not going to do it, because it would tear the country apart. We were at the outer edges of an ever escalating situation in Vietnam. Behind the scenes, we had a situation where literally, and this is not widely known, only a handful of people knew this at the time behind the scenes, there had been an attempt to get America to go to war against China with the setup of the K-129 sub north of Hawaii, and this sinking of the sub 390 miles north of Hawaii, where it was going to launch a nuke, a Russian sub that essentially been hijacked. It was going to launch a nuke on Pearl Harbor, and the missile blew up in the chamber. It wasn't a nuclear explosion, but the nuclear components littered the seafloor along with the submarine. And we had the largest intelligence operation ever in world history to go retrieve that submarine and prove to the Chinese what had just happened. There was all sorts of intrigue taking place behind the scenes. In that environment, when Nixon was coming into office and LBJ was going out, in that environment, Nixon, in the intervening period from when he lost to Kennedy, through Kennedy and then the Johnson administration, Richard Nixon worked just down the hall from David Rockefeller, doing legal work for entities related to the Rockefeller operation. He was tuned up within the Rockefeller operation, and he'd been involved in that going all the way back. Nixon's the one that put all the Nazi scientists. He was the head of the Navy project where they placed all the scientists from Paperclip at institutions around the country and military bases, and knew what their specialties were, knew what we were looking at, that they had, missile technology, the laser isotope separation systems for nuclear, and numerous other things. And then also the Tesla stuff that Trump's uncle had. He was the one that personally went in, and the Paperclip later people, as these technologies were sifted out into industry and military things. So when Nixon was looking over his shoulders, because he knew the Rockefeller connection to all this. Remember, the UN was pushed by Rockefeller family members. Nelson Rockefeller donated the property. They were the ones that brought everybody in the room to create this UN. And so Nixon knew the power of that Rockefeller clan. For example, also, energy makes the world go round. When Standard Oil was broken up, where did the core component of Standard Oil go? Aramco is the oil company for Saudi Arabia. So the Aramco says it means Arab American. Arab, we get that. American is Standard Oil, all the wealth. So this huge, incredibly large family operation, Nixon knew the inner workings of it and the connection to the intelligence community, the connection to the military side, all of that. And then he knew what the plan was when they were trying to take him out of office and put Nelson Rockefeller into the presidency. When he left office, in his private life afterwards, he befriended Trump and then was able to school him. Who's going to come after you? How are they going to come after you? What would they do if you were to hone your career?
Wow, so Nixon was like the predecessor.
Nixon was the old sage.
And Trump was like his protege.
Well, they were friends, and he gave him a clue. You know, here's what's going on. Here's what's at stake. And remember, Trump also got the conversations from his uncle, who knew the technology side of what had been retrieved from the Nazis, what Tesla had, which was far more advanced than people understand today. And so he had this grasp of the deeper inner workings in the intelligence community, the business community, the science and university community. Remember, Epstein at Epstein Island wasn't just entertaining politicians. He was bringing in all the great university professors and scientists and getting them honeypotted, getting them into the club and blackmailing them.
Wow,
and he wasn't doing it for himself personally. Remember, he wasn't doing it for himself personally. Epstein was working, and Ghislaine Maxwell were working for intelligence entities. MI6, CIA, Mossad, all of them were in there. That's part of the whole Epstein thing, and part of the McAfee side.
He did ask Trump multiple times ago, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah, they wanted to get him on the hook.
See, that tells me Trump knew like what he was gearing up for.
Of course he knew. He knew, and the whole family had to agree. Look, this is, it's all or nothing. There's no middle ground here. That's why I have the greatest respect for the whole family. As much as they might not have known precisely what they were in for, they knew within a zone very clearly how horrific, how hard this fight was going to be, what was at stake. If you're going to take on this global cabal in this James Bond plot that we're living in, Casino Royale for planet Earth, you have to actually get just how the magnitude of the fight that we're in. And they didn't cower, deep breath, and went for it. And then Trump, behind his desk on the left side over his left shoulder, was the letter from President Nixon's wife, Pat. And it said, I hope someday you run for president. I know if you do, you will be a great president. Okay. He got all the instruction. He got the best of the knowledge of what's going on, got the handshakes with guys that have been in the fight behind the scenes from MacArthur and Eisenhower forward. Why was a second continuity and government operation created with SES, Senior Executive Service, under Carter with the Bush people and all that? That's become this unbelievable, other government, hidden government in plain sight, because it was put there to reinvent what was there from a military standpoint with the 54 code, which brought in Strategic Air Command, and then later Missile Command and Trident Command. And the service ships kind of fall within a range in there, but it's not quite the same. You don't have callback capability unless it's the aircraft. So long and short of it is we're in this fight at this point between the factions as though we've been attacked in some type of a WMD war, and who's going to control the far side of it. And in the meantime, you're in the community, the city, with armies on both sides of you firing across the middle. You just have to keep your head down, keep your wits about you, and pray. But we are going to win this. It's a chess game. The most important part of chess is not the pieces you take or do whatever. It's the pieces you move to narrow down the board, to make it so the other side can't get into certain areas of the board, and then you choke the fight down, and they got to come through the gauntlet as much as possible. Not necessarily totally physically, but it has to do with the way the pieces are. And then if you're doing 3 dimensions, multiple boards, 7 boards, if you would, energy vote, military, economic, on down, you have multiple boards, these tornadoes landing here in flyover country. That's the game we're in. So anyway, next question. Go ahead.
All right. Are there arrests happening behind the scenes? And is there such thing as clones? Well, there is such thing as clones, but are they arresting people and having their clones masquerade for them? Go ahead and answer that. I mean, I had to get these questions. Juanito, these are serious questions from the audience, man, and this one came up like
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. What I'm trying to do is answer it in a way that is correct and that helps people to think in the correct way. A lot of what looks like might be clones is just good masks. They're a little more complex than people would think, just throw it on in 3 seconds.
I've seen video of these masks where it looks like at the neckline, there's something there at the neckline. Am I right on that?
Well, it depends on, there's multiple ways to do this. And then some of it is green screen, that you're seeing pretty sophisticated, so that, they can make a video that makes you look like you said a certain thing, and it's almost impossible to tell that it wasn't you. Wow. You get these pixel counters that go out and they look at the stuff and start counting pixels to make it to determine whether or not it's green screen or whatever, and some of them are pretty stunning.
We saw Biden waving his hands through the microphones. Yeah. Totally like green screen. And I mean it's like, what's real and what's not. It's a very confusing time, and the confusion really picked up after when Biden stepped in.
And so part of why I say what I'm saying, just like you asked me a question about the real TV and all that, real news, there's trolling going on by both sides. There's illusion. This is a magic trick. These are magicians, wizards. I went to a magic act here in Vegas not that long ago with you.
Yeah.
And if you remember, okay, well, this is really important. I think people have to think about this. Here, the magician had us write down a bunch of stuff or answer a bunch of questions a certain way, and put them in a box. Remember that? And yep. We couldn't have our cell phones out and all that other thing. And then he does the whole show, and then sends us a message on our phones after it's all done. We look at the message and the timestamp, and the timestamp is, back before the actual show began, and it had all the answers exactly that didn't happen for an hour into the show, where people had to answer a question, all these different contestants or whatever came forward. And you're like, how could he possibly have got all these random things into this when he just called people out of the audience? He threw a Frisbee and it ends up, some girl's lap. He pulled out people in a very random sense out of the audience to get all these answers. And then they come up with an answer. He says, you've never talked to me before. We don't know each other. I've never, whatever. And yet it's all in the stuff that he had, both what he presented on the stage and what was in the thing. Let me say this, that wasn't a supernatural spiritual thing. He is an illusionist. He's a master of illusion. So he was able somehow to concoct a story, a myth, an illusion that looked supernatural but was not. So let me ask you this. How many of these prophetic people who are giving us prophetic testimony, from the pulpit and other places, are actually just very good illusionists?
That makes
Not
sense.
all those that say they're here with a message from God truly have a message from the God in heaven. They got a message from the other God, and they're master illusionists, and they come across with total sincerity. They look absolutely real. Some of them are even men masquerading as women, a common thing. Most of the witches were not women. They were men masquerading as women historically. In fact, in all the early Shakespeare plays, it was always men pretending to be women. It was never women.
Yeah, women weren't allowed to be in plays, right?
Right. And so it was a very complex thing. And that there's a long history of that. So even right now, even when we look at Michael, a moose's dress and skirt and shoes, well, you were watching an illusion, a very intricately coordinated dance and illusion right in plain sight that most of the world just went along with.
Right.
So when you get to what's happening in government and who's in charge, these are masters at illusion playing Casino Royale for control of the earth.
Yes.
Both sides are trolling the other to force the other to have to guess, is that real? Is that what's really happening? Look at all the stuff. Look at all the stuff going on with the jihadists, a decade ago. And we do the math on the height of the people and the height of these jihadists. The jihadists would all have to be 7.5 feet tall to have done that. It was green screened. We saw people being burned up in cages, and it was green screen. And we had professionals who are going in Eastern Europe. And a lot of it, we have people walking the streets going, they're saying this and this just happened, but I'm right here. Where is it? Doesn't mean that it's not real. No. It's not as real or precisely real as the illusioning going on by both sides. We're in a real war. Real people are really dying. I had a conversation, I don't know, a week and a half or so ago with folks, and they were in church. And some of the folks that were in there when I mentioned this were just aghast, very upset that I would say such a thing. No, we know much of it is being done with illusion. Both sides are playing a game here. And it's very hard to tell what's real and what isn't. So what I would say, that's where you're not going to get fully to the truth of it. Some of the illusions are needed and the lies are needed in a protective sense, because otherwise people would do exactly the wrong thing. You could be made to see an illusion, crash into a brick wall and destroy yourself. Both sides are having to do their magic, trying to win the game. And remember, when Moses went into Pharaoh's court, Moses grew up in Pharaoh's court. When the priests at Pharaoh's command, threw down their rods, and the rods became snakes. Moses grew up around that. He knew the magic act. He was raised as Pharaoh's brother. So then you go, what did Moses do? He threw down his rod, and it also became a snake, but his snake ate all the other snakes, all the other priests. The rod was a sign of authority, and their symbol of authority just got consumed. They had to go home without a rod. They looked like a dope because Moses's was more powerful. In this moment of illusion, with everything at stake, they're throwing down their rods, we're throwing down ours. And this moment is about our magic and illusion being actually real, God inspired, God backed. You want to be on the right side of this going out in the future? Get on the right side of the abortion issue. Yeah. You want to be on the right side of this going into the future? Choose correctly. You have to make a decision and get your feet on solid ground. Get it on the rock, not on shifting sands.
All right. You ready for the next question?
I mean, by the way, I am. I know people are sitting there going, that's such an evasive answer.
No,
well, it's a personal God. Personally, everybody's situation in the country is a little different. You tell me, should I put my money in a house or in a sports car or in gold bars? I don't know. Every person is different. You might need to buy guns and bullets, and the next person might need to buy food, and the next person might need to buy warm winter clothes, and the next person might need to get a better water processing system so he can keep his crops alive in the midst of what's coming, or get a fireproof building in case they want to laser it and destroy whatever he's got. So, everybody, it's a different answer. You have to personally, don't throw it off on me or Nino or some guru to tell you what to do. God knows exactly what your personal situation is, and he's more than willing to give you personal direction. For one person in the New Testament, a widow, she's told to go get all the jars she can borrow, vend for, trade for, and go into a room because she has no money. And then she prays over it, and God fills all of the vessels with very valuable oil, and she sells them, is able to sustain her son and herself. That answer, well, she had nothing. Yeah, she borrowed everything she could, and it was just jars, empty jars. Okay, I don't know what each person's situation is. You're looking for a one answer fits all.
Everyone
and one answer doesn't fit all. Just like every person's near-death experience is unique to them. Every person's answer for what to do is very personal. And if you want the right answer, not the devil's answer, then you better go to the author of truth and right and correctness and get a personal answer. It's your responsibility to get to God and find out what he wants you to do. He's as serious, Nino, listen to me. God is as serious about giving you the correct answer as you are about getting it. How serious are you, Nino? How serious is each one of your audience members? If you're serious,
I do this for a living now.
Well, I hear a lot of people hand wringing and you're a traitor because you haven't done this. Trump's a traitor or everything else. Okay, so what do you want to do?
Right.
You gonna go have civil war?
Oh, that's
your answer is shit. Your answer serves the devil's purposes.
All right.
I wanted to say more, but I
got you.
Next question.
All right. I guess you kind of answered it. I mean, what are the chances this will go all the way to 2024? What are the chances that this will, I guess, drag out till 2024?
Well, hold on a second. That answer is the question that we're actually answering is Trump going to be back?
Right. I guess
that's the real question.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it all going to be over with? Are we going to go back to NFL Sunday and Thursday?
No, that's not going to happen. I can answer that one.
Yeah, the world is forever different. Okay, and I can tell you,
asleep no more. We're asleep no more.
Well, I can tell you this: when the slaves left Egypt, there wasn't a day of their life, the rest of their life, that was like it was in Egypt. As many as wanted to go back to Egypt or whatever, it was, forever different. So with that in mind, it is going to be different. Will it go back to norm? No. Is Trump coming back? But at the right moment.
I love it. That's all you got to say right there. That's all you got to say. That's
well, and let me qualify it. Hold on, let me qualify it, because I got all these people out there. See, he was wrong. I said the bet was, and by April 1st, anybody that voted for the Democratic person or Biden, because I said it before Biden was even the nominee, would be the fool. And by April 1st, if you don't think you're a fool for voting for Biden at this point in time, if you did, then yeah, you really are a fool, because look at what's going on here. You can sit there and say, no, he fixed this and he did that, whatever. All right. I call you a fool. You can argue with me, but as far as I'm concerned, and I think the vast majority of people see it that way. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay, these next questions I think are kind of fun. Is JFK Jr. alive? And is he behind that letter in the alphabet? And number 9, is McAfee alive? And is RDS alive? I guess that's Robert David Steele.
Robert is gone. I'm sorry to say.
Okay, Robert's gone. But we don't know about McAfee or what?
Well, McAfee is a kind of a fun one. A lot of the stuff that was done in preparation as a kill switch if he's going to be gone. There's a war between a couple of intelligence agency backed groups and local homegrown mobster groups, and P3 is very pissed at other mob groups. So there's some really fun stuff going on there, and there's a direct flight to Valhalla from there too, by the way.
All right, one more question.
Oh yeah. And lawn chairs on the beach. The fun thing too is you can go out and play with all the automatic weapons. You don't have to worry about adding too many more shells to the cluster around there. It's fun to have a vacation spot on a firing range. But anyway, go ahead.
Will you ever wear sandals on the show?
Actually, somebody has been making sure that I get my feet manicured, and I think they must have an ulterior motive somewhere in there.
I don't know if we want to see your feet.
I don't want to.
I don't want to have mine. I definitely don't want to show.
Let me just say this, though. I will say this. One of the things that I've said repeatedly, one of my great enjoyments in life is just wiggling my toes in the sand, and getting the opportunity to just take a break for a few days and walk a sandy beach. And I think all of it shows as much tension as there is all the drama and everything else. I haven't been on my boat for almost 2 years now, because I've been in this fight here. It's been brutal, and haven't had a free moment at all. I told the crew that I'd be back in a couple of days and never got back. So, but there's just too much at stake right now, and we have to stay in the fight. And, failure's not an option. If we get distracted or weak-minded or self-interested, it does hurt the outcome. I will say this also, though, God himself, people that think that God's abandoned America, he's not there, whatever. There's lots of God's people in this fight, praying it through, that God is going to protect. We're not Sodom and Gomorrah. Even what's happening right now at the Supreme Court establishes that something was stolen from us. There was a sneak attack, a plan, and we're fighting back. Truth, justice, the American way, baseball, apple pie. Most of that's going to be back. The only part that's not coming back, we're actually switching. It's going to be peach pie from now on. So mom, peach pie in baseball. And beyond that, it's going to be different, but not so different that people won't be able to enjoy it.
Love you, Juanito. Thank you so much, Juanito. I'm going to put this up. I'm going to put the uncensored version up on Nino's Corner.tv, and then I guess